Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, The Quant Tutor. Today we are going to do the second question of the Pure Math 1 paper from Edexcel. Alright, so this question is asking us to rewrite this equation in this form. Right, so just by looking at it, I know that I need to do something called completing the squares. Right, so what I want to start with is I want to rearrange this equation just to put it in a nice, more familiar format, which is a normal quadratic equation. Negative 4x plus 11. All right. Now, if I want to complete squares, I first want to remove all the negatives and any coefficient that is there on x squared. Ideally, if it is possible. In this case, it definitely is possible. So what I want to do is I'm going to write it like this. Minus 2 x squared plus 2x, right? Because the minus is now gone out. And I'm going to add plus 11 here. Now, I'm going to complete the square for this. Okay, and the way that I will write for this is let's put minus 2 here first as it's supposed to be. Now, let's try to complete the square here. So to complete the square here, we first want to take x out. We add plus, and then we want to do this variable divided by 2, which 2 divided by 2 becomes 1. And we want to square this whole thing. The next step is to subtract something. And that something is basically the square of this, right? And the square of 1 is basically 1 squared, right? And then we've completed the square for this, and now we just add plus 11 on top as usual. All right, so let me rewrite this equation in a nicer form. So it basically becomes x plus 1 squared minus 1 plus 11. Let's multiply the 2 into both of these parts, right? So this becomes minus 2 x plus 1 squared minus 2 plus 11, which becomes minus 2 x plus 1 squared. Okay, and this becomes plus 2, right? Because it's minus 2 multiplied by minus 1, right? So it becomes plus 2 plus 11, which is essentially plus 13, right? And then I can write the equation as 13 minus 2x plus 1 squared, which is exactly how they're asking for in the question. So we know that 13 is our A, we know that minus 2 is our B, and we know that 1 is our C. All right, so now let's start with the part B, which says to sketch the graph of curve C with equation y is equals to fx, right? So let's rewrite fx here first. So fx is equals to 13 minus 2x plus 1 squared. All right. So how we want to start is that let's slowly see. We know that we have an x squared component here, right? There's no x cubed, there's no x. So we know that our equation is going to be a curve, right? And we want an origin point for this. So the origin point is always y is equals to x squared. However, in this case, we do know that we have a negative here. So that x is being multiplied by negative. Hence, our new starting position will be y is equals to minus x squared. All right, now we're going to shift this y is equals to minus x squared based on the numbers that we have. Right? Let's just get a rough estimate of how the curve will look like, and then we can find the coordinates of where it crosses the y-axis. All right, now we have this y is equals to x squared graph. Let's start by looking inside the bracket. The bracket says x plus 1. An important thing to note here is that if you have any equation, if you have anything that is related to the x component, right, which is anything inside the bracket, right, that is something doing something to x, will always be opposite when you are drawing the graph. So in this case, it says x plus 1. But in the graph, what this means is that our graph is going to shift to the left by -1. So this is it will be -1 instead of 0. So it has shift by 1 unit to the left. Next component we will look at is 2. The 2 you can notice is outside the curve. Outside the curve means it's related to the y, right? Anything to do with y will look as it is, right? Will basically be as it is. So because we are doing 2 multiplied by this thing, we are going to multiply all the y components that we have by 2, right? Which essentially means it'll be the same curve, but every curve will now be multiplied. Okay, so there won't really be too much of difference in the graph, but we know that all the y components are being multiplied by 2. All right. And finally, we look at our final number, which is 13, right? It says plus 13. Y is being added by 13, which means that this graph is now going to go up, right? So our graph approximately, our final graph will look something like this. So we know that this graph now will go up and it will be something like this, right? So this is our final answer. Okay, now next it says, show the coordinates where the curve crosses the y-axis. So the point where the curve crosses the y-axis is where x is equals to 0, right? So all we need to do is we need to substitute here. We need to find the y where x is 0. And then we just substitute all the x that we have with 0. So we know that this is 0 plus 1 is just 1 squared. 1 squared is 1. Right? So our answer is basically 13 minus 2, which is 11. Which means that when x is 0, right, which means on the y-axis, our y is 11. So our coordinates are 0 and 11. So this is 0 and 11. Okay, now let's get to the final part, which is the part C, where it says write down the equation of the line of symmetry of C. So now we know that the equation C is like this, right? So it's minus 2x plus 1 squared, right? And we also know that the graph looks like this, something like this. And we know that this point is 0 and 11. Now, we had already, so we want to find the line of symmetry. Now we know that the line of symmetry always passes the peak, right? And we know from here, right, from our previous question, that we started from 0, right? So we started from 0, and then we moved from 0, left -1. So that is our peak. And this peak didn't change its x position at all, right? Only the y was being changed, and everything here came up, right? So we know that this point, the x value of this point is -1. So x is equals to -1 here, right? And because it's a vertical line, there's no y component to it, right? Y is constant. Sorry, y changes for everything here, but we know that x is a constant here, right? So basically, our line of symmetry is x is equals to -1, which is just one line passing through -1. That should be all for this question. Thank you for watching.